Mental health matters now more than ever.
People across mid-Michigan opening up and sharing their stories of grief, resiliency, and hope.
They want you to know you're not alone.
Presented by Community Mental Health Authority of Clinton, Eaton, and Ingham counties.
Thank you for joining us for our mental health special, You're Not Alone. I'm David Andrews.
And I'm Ann Emmerich. These stories we are about to share are meant to give you hope, knowledge, courage, and the tools we all need to cope with what life throws at us.
Some of these stories are not all feel good, but we believe they will make you feel deeply.
We begin with the story of a woman who is answering a calling after a stranger threw her a lifeline. Liz Baker's livelihood is all about preventing death. She's a trained crisis counselor who offers emotional support to people thinking about ending their life.
Crisis line. It's honestly one of my favorite things, to have those kind of enlightening moments with callers, to say, you know, what feels like the end of the world right now actually isn't, that there's still so much life to live, but to hear it click in their voice.
A small reward for a big job, answering calls on the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Calls from people in a very dark place, a place Baker knows all too well.
And what was pain and misunderstanding and just not knowing turned into purpose.
Purpose born out of trauma. One of Baker's best friends died by suicide when she was just 17. Desmond sent her an ominous text, and she and her mother drove straight to his house where they heard the gunshot.
And we beat the first responders there that night. I definitely will never forget that. I will never forget my mom essentially having to tackle me to the ground so that I didn't go and see what kind of shape he was in.
A loss that left Baker searching for answers.
What could I have done? And I should have done this and that. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. Ate me alive after he passed away.
Those unanswered questions pushed Baker into action. A month after Desmond's death, she attended the Out of the Darkness walk at Lansing Sharp Park, organized by the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention.
I started losing it in the middle of the crowd, and I felt a hand on my back, and when I turned around, it was my kindergarten teacher. And to see somebody who was such a prominent figure in our community, knowing that she was touched by suicide, I was just like, whoa.
An aha moment that has powered Baker's mission for a decade. She's now chaired that same walk and is serving as the organization's chapter secretary. But 3 years into her advocacy, Baker found herself having her own suicidal thoughts.
I felt like a fraud to be there and, you know, preach, take care of yourself and do this and that, and here's, you know, all of the mental wellness things that you can do, and I couldn't bring myself to use those tools that I had.
It was in that moment she picked up the phone and called the same lifeline she now answers.
Sometimes just talking to somebody who is outside of the situation, outside of the circle, can just provide a different perspective. And that it did. It helped me see that because I thought I was protecting my family from my feelings of suicidality, that I would be, you know, better off, or they would be better off without me, and those types of things. That helped me see that that's actually the exact opposite, you know, and how much pain that would bring them.
Pain that led to hospitalization and a realization she could use her experience to help others.
There's something so cathartic about taking my experience, my lived experience, and my own mental health struggles to show somebody that, look, I wore the shoes that you're wearing, and I was able to get through it. I got out of it, and so can you. And there's just something so powerful about that.
Her power painted on her arms. Power from pain, pain with purpose, purpose that honors Desmond.
He would be proud to know that his story launched something that helped thousands, countless of other people. I carry him with me every single day. And he really was the big why in why I started doing things.
If you or someone you know has thoughts of suicide, call the 988 hotline. It is completely confidential.
Everyone needs to be reminded that you're not alone.
Students connecting with students through the power of positivity. Find out what's in their toolkit to get them through school day stress. Next.
Stress, anxiety, isolation, they are as common as reading, writing, and arithmetic for many high school students.
There's a Mid-Michigan high school that's taking a positive approach to meeting students' mental health needs. This is year 4?
Yep, my senior year.
Meet Williamston High School senior Anna Koss.
I've never had a moment here where I've thought, oh, I wish I didn't go here.
A great learning environment, but not without the usual high school hurdles.
So I think a lot of students deal here, myself included, with anxiety. I think everyone gets nervous when it comes to school. Our classes can be tough, friends, high school kids, they go through friendships and relationships.
For a teenager, it can be mentally overwhelming.
This is our new calm room. This is new to us this school year.
Williamston High School social worker Kate WILX says the calm room is a place for students to relax and decompress.
We just see more and more students struggling with anxiety, struggling with depression, feeling isolated.
Instead of just reacting to those feelings, Kate WILX says Williamston High School has taken a proactive approach to student mental health.
And really reducing the stigma that surrounds talking about mental health.
Enter Jenny Metzmaker, founder of the group Positive Somebody.
If you empower children to take control of their lives, they will be successful if you give them the proper tools. These are a little bit newer.
One of the tools Jenny has developed, the Positive Pack, which includes a journal.
It's really hard to get started with journal writing, so we do have like journal activities, journal prompts.
There's a Breathe Stone.
And our Breathe Stone card, and they really like this.
Positive words on a card and on a bracelet.
Never, never give up.
The Positive Pack also includes advice about sleep and nutrition, plus nerve-calming fidgets.
This is our hottest item. This is a zipper bracelet. A lot of the students love this because it's a fidget that you can take with you.
Jenny says right now these Positive Packs are in 30 schools across the state. And thanks to grant funding and donations, she's on track to donate 10,000 more this school year.
I really want to pay it forward.
Her passion comes from a place of pain. The daughter of an alcoholic father and a mother who took her own life when Jenny was just 15.
So really it's me wanting to reach children like myself, but also maybe a mom like my mom. If she was given the right resources and tools, maybe she could have found the right mental health resources she needed.
I think it's fantastic to be able to put those resources and those materials in students' hands.
Positive Packs, a calming room, and Williamston High School's Be Nice program, focused on suicide and bullying prevention. It's a student-run program led by Anna Koss.
I think that in order for kids to get the help they need to have resources given to them, because a lot of kids are too scared to reach out for help.
You will have success if you have the proper tools and resources.
We really work on how can we make sure everyone is connected to the supports that they need.
Everyone needs to be reminded that you're not alone.
Also new to Williamston High School this year, a new cell phone policy. During class, they have to be turned off and out of sight. And if you or someone you know is struggling with their mental health, we have a list of resources available on our website, WILX.com. Look under the You're Not Alone section.
There is a new urgent care coming to help teens and others who are in need of mental health help. Community Mental Health Authority of Clinton, Eaton, and Ingham counties is celebrating the coming transformation of the former McLaren Green Lawn campus in Lansing into a new crisis stabilization center. Noelle Melton says Community Mental Health Authority has been her family's saving grace.
I have a 10-year-old son who suffers from mental health issues, and there have been several times where we needed a facility like this and it was not available to us. Every mom wants their children to be happy, successful, and see a future for themselves, and it's brought healing into our home.
The center will expand services for those facing behavioral health issues, offering immediate care, counseling, assessments, and treatments. Remodeling is expected to take about a year, and then the new crisis care center will open on Lansing's south side.
Right now he's holding a utility knife at his neck.
A mother is gone, her son accused in her death. His father says he should have stayed inside a hospital instead of a jail cell. the prison pipeline for mental health, when we return.
Right now, our jails are packed with people suffering from severe mental illness. It's the result of a decision decades ago to shut down more than a dozen state psychiatric hospitals.
Mental health care advocates say the cost-saving measure backfired. This News 10 investigation examines this gap in mental health care. A warning, some of what you are about to hear is disturbing.
911.
It took just a minute and a half for a mental health crisis to turn deadly.
Right now he's holding a utility knife at his neck.
In May, at their home in Lansing, a mother calls 911 to save her son from suicide.
Does he still have the knife?
Yes, he has it to his neck. He's in a lot of pain.
Within seconds, the son turns on his mother.
I can't stop it.
Did he stab you?
42-year-old Brandon Labrie is now behind bars, charged with open murder. His father still trying to process how this could happen.
I've seen a lot of things in my life, and it was, in my opinion, preventable.
Steve Labrie spent more than 30 years as a registered nurse in state-run psychiatric hospitals. He says for years his son suffered from chronic pain and frequent seizures, the result of a car accident. Just weeks before the deadly attack, Brandon tried to kill himself by overdose. His father visited him in the hospital.
I said, "Hey, Brandon, I have that hug for you." And he stood up, and when he did, I saw something I had never seen. And when he stood up, his fists were clenching. He was trembling, and the look on his face was just evil.
Labrie says the nurses assured him they were waiting to get Brandon in a long-term mental health bed, but that never happened.
I think a lot of us still have this notion that a hospital stay is like the old-fashioned days, right? If I have a psychotic episode, I'll get put in the hospital for months, a year, or more. Typical stay is 7 to 10 days because it's meant to stabilize people.
Bob Sheehan has worked in mental health for decades. He says the system is not set up to incarcerate people against their will.
We don't want to take those civil liberties away. So we also find it doesn't have a medical efficacy beyond several days of stabilization.
But just days after getting out of the hospital, Brandon Labrie found himself in the same place many others with mental illness end up, behind bars.
The structure of our mental health system is just broken.
Rachel Murray co-founded an online support group for parents of children with severe or complex mental illnesses. About 800 parents help each other navigate Michigan's mental health care system, a system she says was defunded decades ago.
We're not doing it right in Michigan, and it hasn't worked, and it hasn't been working for a long time. And so now we have this backlog of all of these people who have not gotten the treatment that they've needed.
Murray says to get that help, chronic mental health patients have to travel out of state and be able to pay for it out of pocket.
We're talking about high-level intensive care for people who are a danger to themselves or a danger to other people, who need intensive treatment.
A lot of commercial insurance doesn't pay for state-of-the-art mental health treatment. They pay for outpatient psychotherapy, talk therapy, and medications. But we know that especially if someone has schizophrenia or bipolar or major depression, you need a lot of other modalities.
He says Medicaid does pay for some of those services, but it's not available to everyone. Caregivers and families say dealing with behavioral health is not only taxing, the system is a confusing maze with a lot of dead ends.
Honestly, I think you will get more information and more help by reaching out to another parent who has been through this, because you can talk to professionals in every area and they know their area, but they don't have a picture of the whole system.
For Steve Labrie, it's too late. We talked with him outside the Ingham County Jail, where his son Brandon sits in a cell alone. His criminal hearings delayed until state psychiatrists can evaluate his mental health.
He was good. He was always very mellow.
A son facing life behind bars, a mother whose life was cut too short, and a father in the dark as to what kind of mental health care his son will get.
My guess is, if he is, it's minimal. And I wish I had those answers. I wish I knew.
As far as state support, right now Michigan operates 5 inpatient psychiatric hospitals that serve nearly 650 patients. It will soon merge patients from 2 older facilities into a brand new hospital in Northville. Now is the time to take out your phone and scan this QR code. Just hold it up there with your camera. A link should pop up to click. It will take you right to our website. We have a list of resources across mid-Michigan to help anyone struggling with mental health issues. That's 1 in 4 of us.
Now our continuing coverage of the mental health crisis in our jails and prisons. Check out how one mid-Michigan county jail has become a statewide leader in helping people on the inside deal with what's going on inside their mind. Hi, Ashley. How are you? Nice to meet you. Ingham County Jail inmate Ashley, a 34-year-old woman from Detroit, arrested more than 10 months ago in East Lansing for attempted murder,
home invasion, aggravated assault, resisting arrest, and habitual.
She says her list of mental health disorders is equally as long.
Yes, I've been diagnosed since 2017 with schizophrenia, depression, bipolar 1 disorder, and anxiety.
Mental health challenges like Ashley's are no longer the exception behind bars, but are becoming the rule. According to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, about 44% of the county jail population is suffering from some sort of mental illness, and that's about double the general population.
It's probably actually higher than that.
Captain Rob Earl is the Ingham County Jail Administrator. Whether you want to or not, you have become the front line of helping people deal with their mental health issues.
Correct. County jails and prisons are the largest mental health facilities probably in the country.
And the Ingham County Sheriff's Office Jail has one of the largest programs in the entire state helping people cope behind bars.
Both mental health and substance abuse issues.
15 staff members from the Community Mental Health Authority of Clinton, Eaton, and Ingham counties work from an office that's located right inside the Ingham County Jail. Nicole Brunn is the program coordinator.
It's a very difficult setting to help people with their mental health.
But for the inmates who are willing to accept the help of a therapist, Brunn says her staff has made a positive impact.
You know, I think that that's why we all come here every day to do the work, because we know that it can work and it can be helpful for people.
He's more than a therapist.
Inmate Ashley singling out her therapist named Mike, who she credits with helping her focus on the future.
We talk about ways that I will deal with it if I get out, if everything works out the way I need it to.
Do you have hope for when you get out?
Absolutely.
What gives you that hope?
Well, Mike has said he gave me a couple numbers for people that therapists that he know and out in the community.
Jail Administrator Earl says whether a person is there for 2 hours, 2 days, 2 months, or 2 years, they want to make sure they're taking care of inmates' mental health issues while they're in jail.
Sadness, devastation, more so than anything. Like, what do I do?
Money problems can send us spiraling for all sorts of reasons. Coming up, some ways to save your budget and keep your mental health in check. It's
common to experience a financial setback, but oftentimes it can bring on negative emotions that can impact a person's mental health.
One Lansing mother overcame a major setback and in the process discovered her best qualities and improved her circumstances. Here's News 10's Mars Anderson.
Some say money can buy happiness. However, science shows the lack of money can have impacts on your mental health. For Allie Bennett, a layoff after becoming a new mother led to financial and mental challenges.
So I had just taken 3 months in extensive leave from work, which affected my finances, and then trying to come back to work and losing that income again. The burden of being a provider and not knowing how I was going to provide really took a toll on my mental health.
There are a string of emotions people impacted by financial challenges experience, says Dr. Tariva Watts, owner of Inspired Faith Counseling and Consulting.
Sadness, devastation, more so than anything, like, what do I do? The feeling and the emotion of feeling stuck.
Watts says people shouldn't let the feeling of being stuck turn into an action. Instead, find supporting partners, friends, and family. Also seek mental health counseling to help you find direction, which is something Bennett has always done.
Everybody has to ask for help, and that we shouldn't feel that shame for whatever help that we're asking for, whether it's mental health or it's physical resources, that we should be able to depend on our community to help us get ahead.
Who is your circle of influence? Who are those around you? Who can help you in this moment, in your time of need?
Watts says on the journey of improving your finances and mental health, you should take actionable steps. Assess your situation, then react by pushing yourself to set small goals that lead to larger ones. Most importantly, avoid comparing your life or progress to anyone else.
So identifying that what you bring to the table is valuable.
I used to be asked a lot, like, what do you like to do? Or what do you do for fun? And I'm like, I do dishes. I go to work and make sure my bills are paid. I didn't know who I was as a person. I knew who I was based off of my roles.
Bennett says she assessed her situation and felt going into business for herself was the best option. As the owner of Grassroots Giving, she's helping business owners expand their reach while putting a focus on mental health when financial challenges arise.
Now I go where I feel passionate. When people ask me, like, what do you love to do? I enjoy going to community events. I enjoy talking to people. I love to do like creative marketing projects. And those were things that if I wouldn't have taken the time to discover myself, I wouldn't know now.
Bennett says, like many, she's been there, but this loss helped her find herself. Now she's giving back to her community and letting them know you are not alone.
I was scared, and now I am much more confident. I feel like I can move freely, I can breathe, that I'm in charge.
For News 10, I'm Mars Anderson reporting.
As soon as I said I will be your girlfriend, everything changed.
A change she never saw coming. How this mid-Michigan domestic violence survivor turned her second chance into a chance to help others being abused.
One Lansing woman realized that in sharing her story, she would also become a voice to the voiceless.
She is the founder of Voices of Color, the statewide nonprofit champions for domestic violence survivors. A word of caution, this story may be triggering for some to hear. Here's Studio 10's Rochelle LeGrand.
I had a friend, we were acquaintances in college. As soon as I said I will be your girlfriend, everything changed.
Tanisha Oshakur is the founder of Voices of Color, a domestic violence nonprofit advocacy organization, but she was first a survivor of intimate partner violence.
So I went through the emotional, the verbal, the physical abuse until the point the sexual abuse started. I was being raped, and in December of 2007, he held me in a room for over 3+ hours, and he told me he was going to murder me. So I had started counting steps to the door. How long is it going to take me to get from my bedroom? If I have to leap over this way, held a knife to my stomach and to my throat, just letting me know, like, I can kill you, and that's what I plan to do. Because after some time, I just stopped counting or thinking about time, and I just prepared myself to die. Like, this is finally the chance that I get. And then, Tanisha, how are you going to respond?
Tanisha got a second chance at life, and with the help of her mother, she was able to finally leave her abuser. And then she began her healing journey. And after sharing her story on a church pulpit, she realized others could be inspired and helped too, which prompted Voices of Color.
We provide an array of services for domestic violence victims, regardless of their gender, age, sexual orientation, or race.
And those services include gas cards, hotel stays, funeral costs, and being a voice for the voiceless across the state of Michigan. She does this because she saw firsthand that there is so much responsibility placed on the victim to get themselves out of their own violent situation. She says her ex-boyfriend made 12 copies of her apartment key and was met with no help when she asked her landlord to change the locks.
There's too much time being wasted on what are you going to do first? What are you going to do first? And then I'll step in. I may be able to do this, I may be able to do that. And sadly enough, I have had survivors who've called organizations and agencies as a woman of color, and they were told, we can't do anything for you. We don't have any availability. And I've had a white counterpart call, and resources were available.
Something that resonated with another woman who was helped by Voices of Color. She asked to remain anonymous, but tells me,
yes, definitely. She's been one that, if she knows that you're in an uncomfortable position or place, she does not sleep until she knows that you are safe. I think with me having a family in such a large size family, it was kind of hard to find housing, but she stepped right in and she was there.
Tanisha vows to not let this be anyone else's story. But not only does she help people who have been in her shoes, she also helps those who have been in her abuser's shoes too.
So I guess, you know, I've gotten into a great group full of accountable men that, you know, I believe we really do hold each other accountable.
Multiple times a week, Tanisha teaches a class to perpetrators of intimate partner violence who are working to make a change.
You know, we're all here for the same reason and the greater good of trying to be better men in society. Nobody else is responsible for what I've done, and it's entirely my decisions that were made. And therefore, that's why I sit here responsible and trying to make a change.
As Tanisha works to heal others of their traumas, hers hasn't fully gone away.
I am diagnosed with PTSD. I am still on very much, I say needed medication. Just this year, I started having night terrors again. So for 3+ months, I was being shot in the head in my dreams. I was always running. And so I absolutely, while I say I am actively still healing, I believe that healing is an ongoing word when you've experienced such a level of trauma. And I accept that. The more and more I share, I unlock part of my story every single time. And it is so freeing for me to keep saying it aloud. And I think it is also important for me to recognize my mental health so that people know that it's okay.
Tanisha also wants others to know and recognize domestic violence is not always physical or sexual. It can also be verbal and emotional.
We have the Voices of Color contact information at WILX.com. He was a star quarterback for the Detroit Lions. Coming up, Eric Hipple shares tips for keeping your mental health in check both on and off the playing field.
Eric Hipple played 10 seasons with the Detroit Lions, winning a divisional championship and most valuable player back in 1981. Then in the year 2000, a tragic game changer.
Eric Hipple lost his teen son Jeff to suicide. He has since become a mental health advocate. Eric Hipple recently sat down with Taylor Gattoni on Mid-Michigan Matters to talk about how to handle pressure and stay alive.
He's advocating for mental health after losing his son to suicide and experiencing a decline in his own mental health. Eric Hipple, former Lions quarterback, now joins Mid-Michigan Matters today. And Eric, you know firsthand the pressure that athletes face. And so how does pressure and expectations impact an athlete's mental health?
Well, I think you said something really important there, the expectations. I think that's where athletes get tripped up a little bit. The expectation of what they're supposed to deliver for the fan, the expectation of what what they've worked on so much and what the coaches might expect for them, and I think that's a little bit different than sometimes than what somebody has inside. They're doing this, they've worked hard, they know exactly what they have, but yet sometimes that expectation gets in the way.
And how can focusing on yourself and knowing how you feel, because hey, you know yourself how your mind and body is working, how can that help them to succeed in what they're doing or at least improve their mental health?
Well, I think one thing is just being aware of your own health, as far as not only physical health, which we are, but also mental health as far as, do I feel off? Am I not getting my sleep? Do I feel kind of strange? Do I feel disoriented maybe in a situation? We talked about Simone Biles, 4 years ago about the twisties, right? Well, that's really, anybody can get the twisties. If you get caught up in yourself and just not sure, where you are and kind of get lost in your own identity, then that can happen.
Even Olympians struggle too, and they're at the elite level, but like we talked about, expectations can really cause all of that pressure and a little shakeup in your mental health. You mentioned some of the signs to look out for, whether that's you're sleeping a little bit or some off changes. And so what are the signs and symptoms to look out for when someone is struggling with their mental health?
I think the biggest thing is just looking at somebody's change in behavior. And it's not just a one-time thing, it's like over time. So maybe over the course of 2 weeks or something, if maybe they're not getting good sleep, maybe they look kind of disheveled, maybe their head's down and they're not focused, or maybe they just are angry. And so those are some of the things. But certainly if somebody's super tired, feel like they can't fatigue, can't get going, I think that's part of it. But also this burdensome feeling like they feel like they're in the way, and maybe life would be better off without them.
And sometimes that causes isolation. But if someone notices these signs and symptoms, notices someone struggling with their mental health, how can they address them and engage to support them?
I think the best thing is don't try and fix it, okay? Because we always think, how can I fix this for you? We can't put their shoes on and wear it for them. But what we can do is be there for them. And I think just being in a support role, saying, I'm here for you. You're not a burden. I'm here with you. There's something we can do. And sometimes by your own example of maybe taking care of yourself, we'll lead that to them saying, well, how do I get that? And so then leading them to, an idea of, therapy is just somebody there to help you along.
And you mentioned therapy, and how can taking that step to seek help save lives?
Well, I think first of all, it's just give you a whole different perception on what's actually going on. Is it a medical condition? Is it a situation? So you can, get a handle on it. And I think that in itself, just sometimes somebody being there and feeling connected again, whether it's empathy and eye-to-eye contact, but that in itself can just make a person feel like they're connected again and say, okay, this is going to be okay. I do have hope. I can get better. And I think that's, the hope part is really big.
Oh yeah, and the hope in giving people this help. When someone is struggling, how can they go about asking for help without feeling like a burden?
Well, I think some of it is just, regardless that they might feel like that burden, but it's going to be okay. Advocate for yourself. I think one of the groups I belong to, it's called the Be Nice, Notice, Invite, Challenge, and Empower. It's just noticing yourself when things are off, but also if I'm somebody else looking at you, right, I might notice like when things are quite a little different. And B, just asking a question, are you okay? And engaging, because when you engage a person, then they feel connected again, and then that might help them seek help that there is an answer.
It helps them feel seen and also helps them feel heard when they receive that support. Eric, thank you so much for joining Mid-Michigan Matters, sharing the resource of Be Nice, and just being here to share about mental health.
Well, thank you. And let's not forget the 988 number, how important that is nowadays.
Yes.
I mean, there's a number we can call, goes directly to a crisis center, and I think that 988 is a great number.
I know that's received millions of calls since it launched, and so thank you again. 988, you can call or text that number for more of those resources. Eric, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Taylor.
Whether it's alcohol or stronger drugs, there's that window of opportunity, and then cravings start.
A new mapping system could help people in drug or alcohol crisis get to that window of opportunity for help sooner. Find out how it works next.
A new tool from the State Health Department is putting addiction recovery centers on the map, literally.
People struggling with alcohol and drug addiction can now quickly find a place to get help that's close to them. Riley Connell tells us how it works.
When I finally decided to get clean, I was kind of at this point in my life where it's either I didn't really want to live anymore, or I wanted to figure out a different way of life.
Making the decision to get help was the first step for Hunter Taylor, Executive Director at Lifeboat Addiction Recovery. The next was finding the right place to do it, an obstacle that he says takes more than an internet search to overcome.
You're going to get numbers for inpatient, outpatient, therapists. You're going to get places that no longer exist, Alano clubs. You're going to get everything. It's very overwhelming.
The State Health Department is trying to fill the gap with an interactive map called the Michigan Substance Use Disorder Locator.
So we are combining a lot of detail about location, types of services that are offered, contact information, phone and website, and then payer information, whether or not those services or programs accept Medicaid.
Mid-Michigan Recovery Services Executive Director Patrick Patterson says the faster they can get someone through their door, the better.
You gotta strike when the window's hot, because you whether it's alcohol or stronger drugs, there's that window of opportunity, and then cravings start.
For Taylor, it means hope that more people can get the care they need to free themselves from addiction.
clinical-based recovery doesn't work for everyone, but it works for some people. Peer-based recovery works for some people, it doesn't for others. So to be able to choose those things and have an understanding of the resource you're about to access can be indescribably helpful.
In Lansing, Riley Connell, News 10.
He was the glue that kind of held us together.
A terrible hunting accident leaves a family without a husband and a dad. How power in numbers is helping them heal. Coming up next. As we wrap up our You're Not Alone special, it's important that we recognize that grief can have a profound impact on our mental health, making us feel like we are alone and have nowhere to turn.
Studio 10's Nicole Buckman sat down with a very special St. John's family who is grieving the loss of an amazing husband, father, and friend. But with the help of the community and local resources, they are finding ways to not only remember him, but to carry on his legacy.
Gary and I met online 11 years ago. We ended up talking that whole night until like 3:30 in the morning. And on September 5th, 2013, he drove to Lansing and surprised me to meet for lunch. And the rest is pretty much history.
2 years from that very day, Katie and Gary Gatewood got married and together created a beautiful family in St. John's.
And then we have our 6-year-old and a very large gap, followed by our medically complex Charlie, and then our very fast, right after Charlie, Chloe. Overall, Gary was the best teammate there ever was for parenting. Honestly, that's my biggest struggle.
That's because on September 4th, Gary lost his life in a hunting accident when his rifle misfired, a loss that his family and friends face every day.
It feels impossible because he's not replaceable.
He was the glue that kind of held us together. He knew how to make everybody laugh. He knew how to break up the hard moments, and he knew how to put a smile on everybody's face and just make everything a little bit easier. And trying to get through this without him, it does feel impossible.
In these impossible and dark days, the St. John's community has stepped up to the plate to help Katie and her family with GoFundMes, fundraisers, and meal trains.
I don't think the words thank you are adequate. I am not sure how to thank the community, to be completely honest with you. I'm not sure what words to put on it. I just hope that they all realize that they are what's getting me through right now.
Right now. But what about the future? For Katie, she shares that's what she's most worried for.
Okay, I might get it through the first year, but what's going to happen, you know? But again, I don't think that anybody is going to let us crumble.
Especially as both Katie and Rachel know that grief will come in waves.
Even though we are all together, it can still feel very lonely. And, you know, everybody goes through that. You know, grief's a cycle, and it just keeps rearing its ugly head and everything. But it's nice to know that people are there and that we have that love and support always.
Christine, the director of Ellie's Place, lost her husband too. She shares that grief, as hard as it gets, comes from love.
Grief is love that has nowhere to go. And so if you tuck it away, at some point it's coming out. And that's here at Ellie's Place and what I did with my kids, you have to sit with it, as hard as it is. And so the most important part is to remember that it's love that's nowhere to go.
Christine shares that other ways to help those that are grieving is not just to be there initially, but in the following months and years.
But it's later on when the loneliness hits. That's when you bring the meal. That's when you send the card. People want to know that their person is still thought about and loved, because as a family member, you don't stop thinking about them. So your gift, if you can share a story, remember a date, will have a lasting impact on the family.
For Katie, she knows that her beautiful girls will be Gary's legacy, but so will his favorite game, cornhole.
The intention is going to be we will be having an annual cornhole tournament for Gary. I mean, when he wasn't dadding or working, he was loving him some cornhole. So I think that'll be a good way to carry on his memory.
Thank you so much for joining us for our You're Not Alone special.
If you are ever in a mental health crisis, you can call the suicide hotline at 988 or go to the nearest emergency room.
We have a lot of great resources at WILX.com. And just remember,
you're not alone.